Hey, Tom here, FlipAnything USA. So today I'm doing a reaction video on Coffeezilla on his video he just did on YouTubers getting sued for $1 billion. My emphasis on this is going to be primarily on these two, Stephan and Meet Kevin. These are two financial influencers. When I saw these guys, professing to be experts, I thought it was kind of laughable, to be honest. I like both of these guys. I think they're nice guys, but I don't think they have the chops to lead anybody into investing in stock or investing in real estate. And I'm going to explain why. And I'm even going to examine what kind of money, how many millions did these guys influence people to spend on FTX? But Coffeezilla left some important information out. We're going to talk about that. How much money did these guys lead people into investing? I will give you what I think is an educated guess.
Yo, stop and listen. Time is on a mission to eliminate all of the snake oil and the fake gurus that fake y'all. He'll show you how to build an empire, starting with nothing but a desire. All you really need is a good mentor, not a used car bullshit. With time, you'll learn to crush it. Investing like Warren Buffett. With real estate, you cannot procrastinate. Everyone who hesitates is left at the starting gate. Hey, yo, so don't delay and join today. The mentorship and flip anything. USA, go.
Well, listen, if you hadn't gathered from that little bit there, I'm a real estate investor, a mentor, and if you just got here, please hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Also, I have a book, Wake Up and Smell the Real Estate. It's been a bestseller on Amazon, Audible, and Kindle. I urge you to get that. Now let's get into the video here.
The influencers who promoted FTX are now being sued for over $1 billion in damages, and I want to talk about it. We're not only speaking to a lawyer, but even one of the people getting sued. Meet Kevin, Stephan, Andre Jick, Minority Mindset, Brian Jung, Financial Education Jeremy, Tom Nash, and BitBoy Crypto are all defendants in this lawsuit.
All right, we're going to skip through this because I don't know BitBoy Crypto and not that interested anyway.
I want to talk about the rest of this lawsuit. Basically, the rest of these influencers are accused of promoting FTX and getting paid for it. It also accuses them of not conducting adequate, if any, due diligence. Allegedly, these influencers played a major role in the FTX disaster, who hyped the deceptive FTX platform for undisclosed payments. Now look, none of this is really surprising. We talked about this back in November, and it all feels inevitable. The whole reason FTX was so popular is because of the amount of money they dumped into these advertising campaigns. Everyone I know was offered one of these deals. Either way, it's pretty logical to see that without people willing to take the money and sell FTX, it just couldn't have hurt as many people. And already, we saw a similar class action lawsuit come out against arguably the biggest promoters, Tom Brady, Larry David, Kevin O'Leary. And so this just seems like the next logical step targeted at smaller promoters, albeit financial education influencers in particular. So although these guys don't have as anything close to Tom Brady's popularity, the argument here is different. It's that people look to people like Stephan and Meet Kevin in a different way than they looked at Tom Brady.
So on that point, look, common sense would tell you that Stephan and Meet Kevin really have no business influencing anybody. From that standpoint, these guys, they're like 20-something years old, early 20s, when they went from being a real estate agent, their first job, or basically, among their first jobs where they actually started to make some money, and then they elevated their income tremendously when they became YouTubers and YouTube stars. That being said, they extrapolated their experience as being real estate agents, as being real estate investors. Yeah, the masses are the asses. Anybody that would think that somebody so young could have so much experience is foolish. And Meet Kevin seemed to go from, and Stephan too, they were in real estate, and then they went from being experts in real estate to being experts in stock. They're not experts at either. But common sense should dictate that to anybody watching them. They're too young. You can't pull experience out of your ass. I say it all the time. You can't be that young and simply accumulate stocks and say that you're a stock investor just because you're transferring the form of your asset. Their asset being cash, they turned into real estate. let people believe that they were, exceptional real estate investors. And then they transferred that same cash or other cash that they made from their earnings and turned it into stocks.
Tom Brady promotes some penny stock, you'll think nothing of it. But meet Kevin, Graham Stephan, Andre Jick, Financial Jeremy. All they do is do finance all day long. They even have a podcast they called Millennial Money, which was sponsored by, you guessed it, FTX US, and is now deleted. And the point is, they position themselves as experts. And I think that's the real juice of this lawsuit, in contrast to, say, like the Tom Brady lawsuit. The only analogy I can think of is like if someone tried to sell you a pill that was going to help you lose weight, and the two people promoting it is Jack Black and Dr. Oz. Okay, let's say you take the pill and develop uncontrollable vomiting. Who would you actually be mad at? You could say, well, Jack Black's more of a star, but ultimately, obviously, the answer would be Dr. Oz, because he's expected to know better and to do due diligence. And the reasonable assumption is that Jack Black couldn't look into it even if he tried. He's not an expert. And so I think that component probably will make a massive difference. I'm certainly not saying everyone who promoted FTX who didn't know anything about finance should be let off the hook. I think it's a huge problem either way that non-experts can shill financial products. I'm just saying it's worse if they are experts. But to make my position even more explicit, I don't think influencers of any kind should be allowed to promote these investment products.
So look, I'm a little bit torn on that myself, just because I think everybody has a responsibility. You have freedom, have the rights to do what you want to do. Again, the masses are the asses, and people are gullible and stupid, and they vote and they invest with their heart rather than using their brains.
People, because it's impossible to give broad financial advice in a responsible manner to a massive audience you don't know. But on that note, you might say, well, hang on a minute, Stephen. I'm with you on not selling financial products, but they weren't selling that. They were selling FTX, right, or FTX US. And this is where things get a little tricky, because, yes, there's some truth to the fact that FTX US was a platform, but on that platform, they were also selling financial products. And admittingly, this was confusing to a lot of people. A Redditor said FTX earned for US customers is incredible, but very poorly marketed. And then complains that it almost feels intentionally hidden, which should have been a red flag. And maybe it was.
Let's skip ahead.
And basically, the entire case rests on a part of the Florida law that the plaintiff's claim connects the endorsers to FTX. I'm very skeptical of this.
So I don't know this guy. I guess I think he's an influencer too. So I don't know that his opinion may not be skewed in his own best interest. So we'll skip on through him, and let's go to Coffee again.
Wow. So there's the official opinion from an expert. It'll probably cost the influencers a lot of money, but he's skeptical if it will hold up for the long run. Of course, we'll see how it plays out. But the last thing I wanted to do was not just ask a lawyer what they thought, but ask these influencers. Because, look, whether you think this particular lawsuit is relevant, it changes nothing about the ethics of this situation. And I wanted to hear it straight from them. Most of them were...
Yeah, look, so I'm pretty harsh on, Grant Cardone, who's somebody I don't care for much. I think his investment advice is garbage, and but people buy it. Let's see what Kevin says.
Refused to comment for understandable reasons, but Meet Kevin decided to respond, and here's what he said. You're being sued along with several others for the promotion of FTX. Do you think you should be liable? What are your thoughts?
It's terrible. I feel so terrible for the people who lost money from FTX. I feel so just the entire digital finance community has really gotten hit basically with egg on the face, so to speak, because of the association with somebody who ended up being a terrible fraud. And it's miserable. The way I compare it is I was a real estate broker for quite a while, still am a real estate broker, and oftentimes clients ask us for vendor recommendations. Hey, who's a good electrician? Who's a good plumber? And I've had this before where 98% of the time the electrician you recommend is great, and then one time something goes wrong, and that stuff happens, and it turns into this situation where the person who's responsible is the person making the mistake. And I know it's terrible because it's like, hey...
Now, I wouldn't call that exactly a fair example, because look, we all give referrals to different subs and people that we know, or a referral to somebody, but we're not necessarily taking a commission, and that's what I'm going to get into in a little bit here. When you're taking a commission, you can't trust anybody that's making money off you. You just can't. I say it all the time. And so to compare it to just simply referring to somebody that did your curtains or tile, or, it's not quite fair, because when you're giving that referral, you're not making a commission on it. You're just simply, sending out, oh yeah, try this guy. He does a good job. And that's fair enough. But if you're saying, yeah, use this guy because I make a commission on your purchase, that's different. That requires disclosure.
Well, financial influencers, how come they didn't know? We didn't have access to financials at FTX. We had hired individual representatives like agencies, credit agencies who do this sort of stuff.
So, and this is typical, you blame somebody else, and I'm not saying he is to blame. Look at Kevin. This is a young guy, might be 30 now. He went from being a real estate agent to a YouTuber. When you're that young, it's obvious you don't have experience. You really have to, unless you misrepresent yourself, to have more experience than you have. And I do think Kevin and Graham are a little guilty pretending to be experts. Kevin would often say, my $25 million portfolio, my $10 million portfolio, whether it be stocks or real estate or whatever. Somebody that has some sense would know. Well, like when I was watching Meet Kevin with real estate, his portfolio kept growing. And of course, I would judge a good investor by what he has made on his investments. So I would point out, well, look, Kevin says he's a great investor, but where's the profit? Where's the profit? And then people would say, oh, well, he's hodling, or, out came with stock later on. But they'd say, oh, well, Kevin is a good investor. He just buys and holds. He buys and holds. And I'm like, yeah, that doesn't prove you're a good investor. If all you're doing is changing the form of your asset from cash into real estate, and like I say, he was buying at a pretty frenetic pace. I mean, he was investing, but there was nothing to give you any impression that he knew what he was doing, because all he was doing was accumulating. He'd say, see my $5 million of real estate, see my $10 million, my $15 million, my $20 million in real estate, with no sales. Where's the money coming from? It should be obvious to anybody watching. He's simply he's taking YouTube income and buying more real estate. Somebody without common sense wouldn't see through that. But somebody with common sense would say, well, are you a good investor? How much money have you made? Show me your expertise. Show me why I should believe that you know what you're doing. And that's what people failed to do. And let's keep watching. And like you can see, he's kind of claiming ignorance now a little bit. Which, by the way, Kevin, I think that'd be your best defense, is you just say, look, why would anybody believe me?
And they tell us they do all the vetting for us. This is why we hire people to help us. And so we don't have to look into the systems of what's really going on behind the scenes. And I think that's the same thing that happens to people. Like,
when you're a builder, look, I'm a builder, so I think of the mentality of a builder. And I hire subs, and I have people that work for me, my own crew. I'm still responsible for the job. So when you say, look, we hired somebody else, and and they're supposed to do that stuff. But if you're talking about somebody a salesman, that's just trying to get you to take this, and they take a commission, and you get a commission, which I'll get into commissions in a minute here. Anyways, you got to think about it. See, I'm trying to take both sides of it. Look, he is young, and he doesn't necessarily know what he's doing, and at the same time, now he's kind of claiming, well, look, don't blame me. Look, we hired somebody, or I hired somebody that's supposed to know that stuff. Let's keep watching.
Shaq or Matt Damon or whomever else has been caught up in this. But I think the worst case scenario out of all of this is the individuals who don't have access to their deposits.
But do you think you should, specifically you or Graham or anybody else who promoted it, I think the difference is between you and Tom Brady is people kind of expect you guys to know. Do you think you should be giving recommendations if you can't do the proper due diligence because, as you said, you don't have access to these financials, and then B.
See, that's a good point. And unless he disclosed that, I mean, listen, I tell people all the time, people ask me to kind of forecast the market, and real estate and that sort of thing, because I've been doing it for 42 years. And you know what I tell everybody? I say the only thing I know for sure is that I don't know for sure. That is a responsible, statement. People that make bold predictions that have no experience, it's irresponsible.
Do you think that, given that you guys profited, I'm guessing somewhere in the realm of $1 million plus from these FTX things, do you think that you should give back all of that money?
So first, my expectation is my profit from FTX, just to be as transparent as possible, is probably somewhere around 225K. It's supposed to be closer to 300, but they never paid me the last payment. So I'm probably...
Listen to what he just said again.
So first, my expectation is my profit from FTX, just to be as transparent as possible, is probably somewhere around 225K. It's supposed to be closer to 300, but they never paid me the last payment. So I'm probably somewhere right around 220. I need to fact check that, close somewhere around that.
Look, I'm a numbers guy. So the first thing I want to know is how much shit had to be sold to be owed $300,000.
Ultimately, I agree with you. I think that there needs to be there needs to be a lot more diligence in when sponsorships are made with creators.
Yeah, because you guys are dealing with finances. This isn't a NordVPN ad where if things go wrong, something happens. This is like, if something goes wrong, people's entire livelihoods are at stake, and for better or for worse, you guys are seen as...
This is why lawyers tell clients to keep their mouths shut. He probably would have been better off being quiet. I don't think he's going to have to pay anything in the end.
The experts, and so you guys are held to that expert standard. It's like if a doctor recommended a pill that doesn't work and gives you cancer or something.
I suppose it's also relevant to what people individually say, right? Because individually, I've always said, look, crypto is extremely speculative, and that it should represent a tiny portion of your portfolio, if anything at all. On top of that, it's also incumbent upon the individual to take some responsibility that we know not your keys, not your crypto.
So what he's saying, though, really isn't relevant to the numbers lost. In other words, whether he would say make it a small piece of your portfolio or not, this is going to be based on real loss. The claims are going to be based on damages. Using that formula, if he was responsible for $16 million and $666,000 worth of damages, I mean, they could make that case, assuming all this, this speculative commission rate that I'm loosely basing on what I found on the internet. Again, it wouldn't matter if that represented all of somebody's money or just a little piece of everybody's money. So let's keep watching.
Been made abundantly clear, even with these bank failures, I believe that ultimately depositors deserve some form of a haircut because ultimately they choose. Now, if I say, hey, go to Silicon Valley Bank and get a loan, and you're like, hey, I get a loan here, I get all these benefits, ultimately you take that risk. So it is incumbent upon the individual to take responsibility as well. Yes, a doctor can refer you, hey, maybe this medicine will work.
But the individuals aren't the experts. That's the whole problem, is they rely on experts to help them make this decision. They don't have the luxury of spending all day looking at finance and stuff like this. So they rely on people to make their decisions for better or worse. And then when things go wrong, ultimately people are going to look to the experts in the room and say, hey, what happened? And if the answer is, well, we just didn't do enough due diligence, sorry, that's kind of a problem. So I think that's where their questions about like giving back all the money come from. Have you spoken to anybody about just giving back the money to the people affected?
Once all the cards are settled, or all the dust is settled, so to speak, and everybody gets whatever money is left back, whatever deposits are left, I'm a big fan of contributing to some sort of recovery fund when it's all over, not because I feel responsible. I do not feel responsible, but because I feel sorry for people who, quite frankly, lost money because they either didn't listen to the advice of not your keys, not your portfolio on. If I go onto a gambling website because somebody says, hey, go gamble here, you'll make a lot of money, and I lose money, that's on me. And I want to be clear, too. I invested in BlockFi thinking this was going to be a great investment. I put $420,000 into BlockFi. I lost every dime of that because the company went bankrupt.
The bottom line is, when you got somebody this young, you can't expect that he knows what he's doing. So now I'm putting this back on the investor. It's stupid. So there's, whether he's culpable for any damages or not, I don't know. But the bottom line is, this is something I've said from the beginning, not just about Kevin, but about others. Listen, you can't extrapolate the fact that you buy stock and call yourself an investor unless you have a record of making money with stock. And now, admittedly, he's saying, I lost, $425,000. Well, I don't know if he made everybody aware of that on his channel, that he lost that much. But if he did, it would probably damage his claiming to be an expert. And a lot of people won't do that. So if Kevin said the day that he lost all the money, he said, yeah, I lost all this money, you would probably question whether he knows what he's doing or not. And again, this is the problem when the money comes to you so easily. When you're making millions of dollars a year as an influencer, you can afford to throw $425,000 away. It represents a very small piece of the money you make by being on YouTube. I would think about a kid that would destroy brand new iPhones. He'd buy like 10 iPhones, set them on a desk, and he'd beat them with a hammer. So he'd destroy $20,000 worth of iPhones, and he'd get millions and millions of views, and he would still make money. So in other words, he could throw money away right before your eyes and make money off of the people watching. And that's kind of what the similarities in Kevin just investing. He says, yeah, I bought Tesla, I buy this, I buy this, I buy this, I bought all this property. It doesn't mean that he knows what he's doing. It just means that he's changed the form of his asset, changed it from cash to real estate, changed it from cash into stocks. The buyer, you should have the common sense to look at this and know that you shouldn't take his advice. That's simple. You shouldn't take his advice because he's too young to know what the hell he's doing. Now, again, if he represents that he's making money on things that he's not, that would be different. And I don't know whether he has done that or not. But again, like I say, there's really, I can see an argument on both sides of this. But in the end, I think the person buying really needs to, reflect back. And, what the hell are you listening to somebody so young for?
Now, did I blame Anthony Pompliano for making the recommendation or suggesting, hey, you can invest with my fund into BlockFi? Absolutely not, because I'm a big boy and I take personal responsibility. So I want to be very clear, just because I suggest that, hey, there should be, and I'm happy to work with it, some form of basically a charity. Let's be clear, that's what it is. It's not taking responsibility, because ultimately, I don't think any influencer has to take responsibility for what somebody does with product advice. That responsibility should only arise if somebody actually...
See, he would have been better off, in all honesty, probably not speaking. And this is what a lawyer would tell him. Even if... I think he's being very careful how he answers, and that's fine. But he's destroying his credibility as an investor, because he's basically saying, don't listen to me, I don't know what I'm doing. Basically.
We hire somebody like retaining an attorney, hiring a doctor for their own personal situation, or hiring a personal financial advisor. Otherwise, from there, it's a lesson to the whole community. We've got to be more careful with sponsors, and the viewers have to be, diligent about their own decisions.
Well, there you go, guys.
What he could have said was more diligent about their influencers.
Thoughts of Meet Kevin, and I want to thank him for coming on. And maybe one day he'll start that charity he's talking about. Maybe not, but until then, I just want you to understand something the next time you're thinking of trusting a financial influencer. These promotional deals, how they work with things like FTX, is that there's a code associated with it that tracks sales. For example, you might have heard of somebody saying, hey, use code Coffeezilla, or they have some link, right? So FTX can see how many people signed up with Kevin's link or Shaq's link.
So this is the commission base that I was talking about, but he doesn't. And this is what I would ask Coffeezilla. Give us a number. What do you think? What do you think based on Kevin's $300,000? What is the dollar amount that would equate to the people that were influenced to buying? What do you think that is? If you got $300,000 based on whatever the commission is, what does that mean in his? Whether it's depositors or people investing in crypto in whatever way they do, what do you ultimately? What is that number, Coffee?
And you know who takes responsibility when it's time to make money? The influencer. They take responsibility for you joining their platform. That's how FTX grew. They paid all these people who wanted to be responsible for bringing you in. But you know what happens when things go wrong? Suddenly, they're not responsible. You did it. It's on you. Isn't that a convenient switch up of who brought you in? At first it was them, and then you brought yourself in. You got to take responsibility for your own actions. And I just don't think this is really working for people anymore. I think it really just benefits the influencers and the financial companies, but hardly anyone else. It's bad for regular people, and I think there just really needs to be new rules in place about financial experts in the modern era. But hey, that's just my opinion. Hashtag not financial advice.
So great job, Coffeezilla. Again, I think it'd be great if you could dig up a number and try to figure out what 300,000 would represent in deposits. And urge you to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and hope you will see me again. See ya.